Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is Trish, The.Core.Behavioral.Therapist, and my guest today is an old friend of mine, Tysen Graham. She's a mental health clinician. We met a long time ago that we used to both work for a hospital in New Jersey. And Tysen, thanks for coming, by the way. Thanks for being on the show with me. I really appreciate it.
Hello, you are welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. I just feel like you have such a wealth of information, especially during these times of COVID and especially the awakening of America right now to the world about the injustices that have been happening, especially with Black Lives Matter. So I really want to thank you for being here. Can you explain your position or who you work with, the population you work with?
Right. Well, currently I work with the DDD population, DDD and ID population, which is the developmentally disabled and intellectually disabled individuals. I previously, as you mentioned, worked with the mental health. Mentally ill population. I've been doing that for 20 years. So working with DDD and ID individuals, it's a new stepping stone for me, but I do enjoy it.
Yes, and that partakes in, well, first of all, thank you so much for your work. We both worked very closely together with the severely mentally ill population, and
Yeah.
that's really people who were diagnosed with either schizophrenia, disorder, and other, I guess, psychosis disorder, that sort of thing. And right now, basically, the population you work with are with people who were diagnosed with being on the spectrum of autism, that sort of
Yes.
thing. Yeah. So can you explain what happened? So funding has been so horrible, in my opinion, for mental health, especially mental health issues in America right now. It's on the rise, even more so now with unemployment rates and everything like that. Can you explain what happened to the organization you worked with before?
While I was working with this organization, even before that, funding was cut in New Jersey under the previous governor. He not only cut the funding to the developmental centers, but he also cut the funding to state psychiatric hospitals, group homes, and shelters that house the mentally ill. All of the programs were affected. Day programs were affected, and as you both, as the both of us know, that the mentally ill population need a lot of support. Mentally ill, as well as DDD population, they need a lot of support. And so they need that from day programs, they need that from residential, because sometimes it can be difficult managing a person diagnosed with mental illness, just because of the highs and lows, the behavior issues, the family not knowing how to manage the situation. So most of these individuals have to live in group homes. So that those fundings were cut. Programs such as community programs, case management, those were cut, and shelters, and even in the psychiatric hospitals, those were also cut.
And that's horrible. So I remember when we used to work together, we would go to the psychiatric hospitals where there would be patients, and the parents also, the family members, the parents, spouses, they had no idea what to do and how to work with these patients. So what on earth happened in New Jersey, in particular, in your case? What happens after the funding is cut off? What happens
after the funding was cut off? Well, you know, social workers, we make the best out of bad situations, and the administrations of many programs made it work. Let me just say, I worked in 2 state psychiatric hospitals after our previous employment. One
Yeah.
psychiatric hospital closed down. I'm going to name it because it closed down.
Yeah.
Hagedorn Psychiatric Hospital, I worked there.
Mhm.
That is a psychiatric hospital for the elderly population. Now, as you and I both know, some of the individuals who are diagnosed with mental illness become violent.
Yeah.
So it is
Right.
not wise to keep the elderly population mixed in with the younger population. And that is what happened. When Hagedorn closed down, the elderly population were either sent to nursing homes who
Right.
were not equipped to manage them because of their psychiatric issues, or to the other hospitals like Greystone and Trenton psychiatric hospitals.
So
Yeah,
this is really it's infuriating.
it's troubling. It's
Yeah, it's
troubling.
troubling. So you mean to tell me that Hagedorn is that's the name of the psychiatric facility? They brought over senior citizens, the elderly population, who are a vulnerable population as is, with other patients who were younger, who had severe mentally ill issues or psychological issues. And I can only imagine the abuse and violence or everything that happened there. I can only imagine.
Right.
And if you decompensating from not taking your medication or not being not being compliant with your medication, things get worse, right?
Right. Well, some of the elderly, I will say that some of the elderly, like I said, social workers, we make it happen.
Yeah,
So some of the elderly population, they were put on separate floors. But if you've ever been in a state psychiatric facilities,
yeah,
the patients are allowed to walk around the hospital freely.
yeah,
The front door, of course, is locked, but the
right,
patients are able to walk around the hospital freely.
yeah.
So,
But
yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation that this would happen, that a specialized hospital for the elderly population would not continue to be funded under Christie. This country has had a history of choosing profit over people.
right,
And where there could have been cuts in corporate taxes, we're allowing, yes, we do need jobs. And I'm not saying that we don't need jobs, but a lot of the corporations that were coming to New Jersey were giving big tax cuts. Now, that tax money could have been put into these psychiatric facilities, into these
absolutely.
programs for the mentally ill, into so many things, but
Yeah.
like I said, the history of capitalism.
Let's talk about that. So Governor Chris Christie basically cut off funding for a lot of mental health organizations, hospitals, and gave it to, let's say, the big cats, the corporate America,
Right.
big companies that came to New Jersey so that they can get a big tax cut. Do you feel comfortable naming some of these companies? I don't have them.
You know what? Christy, thank God, is behind us.
Thank God.
And yes, thank God, Christy is behind us. I will say
Remember when
that,
they shut down the George Washington Bridge by Fort Lee? That
yes,
traffic was horrendous.
corruption, and it continued now in the White House, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But I will say that this Governor Murphy, one of the reasons why I voted for Governor Murphy is because of his mental health agenda. He hasn't put a lot of money back into the mental health field, the social service field, but he does understand it a little bit more. He
Okay.
does understand it a little bit
So
more.
I have to
So
agree with
all of
that.
this is this is a spiral, I should say, a domino effect. That's a better word.
Yeah.
All of the programs closing is a domino effect of what Christie did. So I don't want to blame it on New Jersey as far as our current administration.
Mhm.
It is a domino effect of what Christie did and all the cuts that he made.
I have to
Yes.
give, yeah, I totally agree with you because I remember when COVID started, he made a plea for mental health clinicians, therapists, psychologists from out of state to go ahead and apply for temporary licenses in New Jersey in order to help with mental health with the
Yes.
patient and all who were affected by COVID-19. So I totally, yeah, I'm with you with that. I totally agree with that. Let's talk about that capitalism that's happening with the companies and in the White House, so to speak, because mental health is a huge issue. Like
Yes.
people will argue, and even I think Donald Trump has mental health issues. Like, in my opinion, I feel he has mental health issues. I think that something's not right. I feel that he needs to see a therapist.
Yes.
And I apologize to anyone who's offended by me saying this, but I mean, I think it's healthy for everyone to see a therapist to be real, but he's the president of the United States. Like, what do you have to say about that?
I am going to agree with you, Dr. Ramsay. I'm going to agree with you. I definitely think that I haven't read Trump's niece's book yet. I haven't, but I'm going to get it.
Yes.
I definitely think that Donald Trump has mental health issues, unresolved mental health issues, and I believe that it was trauma from childhood.
Right.
And it shows in his need for attention. It
Yeah.
shows in his narcissistic behavior.
Exactly.
It shows, and when people when people have to constantly tell you how intelligent they are, it usually means that they are not, that they're hiding something.
Oh yeah.
If they have to consistently tell you about their cognitive abilities, about the things that they did, it usually means that they are flawed in that area and they're trying to manipulate the narrative.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that he needs to see a therapist.
Yeah.
In that aspect, he has a lot of unresolved issues.
So many. I mean, narcissistic personality disorder is alive and well, and I see
Yes.
the symptoms of it on him when he
Yes.
talks about it, and when he keeps bringing up the cognitive tests he took. I don't know what cognitive test he took. I'm trying to figure out, like, what test did you? He's explaining it over and over again. Usually, when people do that sort of thing, they're overcompensating for what they're lacking.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Yeah. So I feel like it's alarming.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
I was like Chris Wallace. I was very curious. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can pass this test. So I went on. If you go to the link,
let's hear it. You know the link?
Yeah, CNN. Yeah, CNN has a link, and you go on it, and it is let me tell you, we both have experience in the mental health field. Right. This is not an IQ test. And I have, like I said, I worked at Hagedorn, where individuals were with the elderly population, and they were and a lot of the patients that I worked with, some of them had dementia, some of them had early onset of Alzheimer's.
I think Trump has early.
So they would test, the psychiatrist, they would get a neurologist in, and they would test for, their cognitive abilities, meaning memory, speech and things of that nature. Right. And this is what this test is about. I'm trying to find it now.
I know that there's the WISC for adolescents and the WACE for, but there's a TAT as well. The way he was explaining it, it sounded like the TAT to me, but I'm not sure if that's what it was. But that's on another day. I mean,
yeah. And the guy that actually, the doctor that actually, he's a neurologist, he created it. He was on CNN last night, and I was very interested to.
What did he say about the test?
Well, he said exactly what the test was. The test was developed. They did work hard on the test. He said it would be sort of easy to someone who still has their cognitive ability.
Right.
But it would be difficult for someone who is suffering from dementia or early onset of Alzheimer's. Yes.
So it's really a cognitive test to test if someone has early onset of dementia.
Right. Or,
Okay.
yeah, something,
Or with mental.
the test is about cognitive decline. It has nothing to do with IQ.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well
It
then,
has nothing. And the very fact that he does not know that is troubling as president of the United States.
yeah. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm, it's alarming because, the rest of the world is looking at us and it's like, what is wrong with America right now? And,
Right.
um,
So the test is, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
oh,
off. I
okay.
found the test. So it's from MOCA, MOCA, MOCA.
Mhm.
It's called the MOCA test. And I'm going to send you the link when we get off the,
Okay. I can put it
yeah.
in.
Yeah, you take it, girl. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I must say that, look, I have, oh, I didn't save my, all I have is my verification,
It's
but I
okay.
did not, I did
The
not
Tysen
save my,
Graham test, the same cognitive test that President Donald
it's,
Trump took.
yes,
Okay.
I passed.
Or passed. Yeah,
Look, I'm going to use his words. I passed beautifully. I
you passed
passed beautifully.
beautifully. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. How are your wow, how is the population that you're working with? How are they dealing with COVID? Speaking of mental
You know what? It's been an adjustment. It's been an adjustment, but they are surprisingly doing well. The DDD population, the DDD and ID population, they're very routine. They have to have everything in line.
yeah,
And when you disrupt their routine, it manifests in destructive and hostile behavior. So for the most part, they've been handling it well. We thought it was going to be an issue with the PPEs as far as wearing masks. They've adjusted to that. We sat down and explained to them as, to their level of understanding that, the masks are needed so that you won't get sick. And they have accepted that.
wow. That's
Yes.
that's it. So that's amazing to me because here we have people who don't really have that are not developmentally disabled and they're not wearing their masks and having a good old time and in different states. And here you have the population that you work with, a pretty vulnerable population, and they're adhering to wearing the masks and
Yeah.
doing what they're supposed to do. Isn't that something? This is America.
It is mind-boggling
Yeah.
that people can associate denial of civil liberties
Yeah.
with preserving life.
Oh, wow. Say that again. That was good. Say that again.
It is mind-boggling to me
Yeah, right.
that people can associate denial of civil liberties with preserving life.
Wow. That's so true. It's so, oh my goodness. Like, you're absolutely correct. How would you apply that to currently, and I'm totally switching the subject to Black Lives Matter, because I've been thinking about this, our civil liberties, right?
It's related.
It's
related.
Totally related. Yeah.
It is related. This country has had a history of believing that one race or ethnic when we talk about race, I'm just gonna this is who I am. I am a child of God. So God created.
You all know there, me and Tysen are Christians. We love Jesus.
Yes, we are Christians.
We're Christians.
Christ-centered.
Yes. Centered.
So God created the human race in his likeness.
Right.
This is what the Bible teaches us. And I can only go by what God's word says. He created, he said, we are wonderfully and fearfully made
Mm-hmm.
in his likeness, right?
Yeah.
We are made in his likeness throughout Genesis.
Right.
Let us make man in our likeness, right?
Right.
So he made the human race.
Right.
How dare an ethnic group
Mm-hmm.
believe
Yeah.
that they are superior to another ethnic group when we are all, like I said, made in God's likeness? So that's the first thing.
Wow.
We're one race, which is the human race, because God says so.
Right.
So that's one thing. God did not create race. We did it as humans.
Right.
Through pride, you know, and the Bible also tells us that pride will be the fall of man.
Happened with Satan, right? The fall.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
he was an angel in heaven playing music, and his fall was because of pride.
Because of pride.
Yeah.
Because of pride.
And you know what? We do see color. So when people say they don't see color, we do see color. When you're denying color, right? You're denying someone's experiences being
Right.
in skin, and that's not okay either.
That is not okay.
Right.
Now we're all a part of the human race, but we have different ethnicities.
Right.
And we all love our ethnicity. Now, just because I'm pro-Black, that doesn't mean that I'm anti-white, anti-Asian, anti-Indian,
Right.
anti-Spanish. It doesn't mean that.
Right.
Of course, I love my ethnicity. And everybody should. It's who they are, and their experiences and their cultures should be celebrated. It should be celebrated, you know. So the Black Lives Matter and the refusal to wear masks are, I think that they're related because it goes with privilege.
Absolutely.
Privilege. Oh, you can't tell me what to do, but wait a minute. I can tell you what to do. You can't deny me of my rights, but wait a minute. I can deny you of your rights.
Right.
You know, this is injustice, but wait a minute. Your group does not have to have justice. There can be injustice against your group.
Exactly.
Because I'm privileged and you're not. So I need to get all the benefits of I need to be seen. And because you are not a part of my ethnicity, I don't have to see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. You know, it's all about privilege and our civil liberties. It really is. You know, I'm gonna keep it real. No one's talking about the brown man that called the police on George Floyd for that $20 bill. No one's talking about the race of him. You know who has talked about it? There's this comedian, I forgot his name, but there's some brown people who are talking about it. I see that because we have a say. We need to stand up for Black people too. I'm a brown woman. Tysen is an African American woman, Black woman. You know, brown people need to stand up for Black people straight up. We need to stand up for you guys. We need to be an ally to you guys because people don't know that division started with especially brown people and Black people because in the 1960s, the U.S. granted visas and to brown people, but who are highly skilled and educated. Mm-hmm. So they already created that division. African Americans did not come here willingly, you know, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so when I try to shut down that conversation as a brown woman, and I do bring up, why did the brown guy call the cops on him? Like, it's, you know, we need to stand up for you guys. And we, brown people, we have our issues or whatever and racism, but we have privilege, some privilege that African Americans, Black people don't have. And that's the reality of it. You know?
That is the reality of it. And then when I discuss the racism, discrimination, and the oppression, I always say Black and brown people because if you look at the history of this country, during World War I believe, when America was at war with China,
Yeah.
the Chinese were imprisoned
Oh yeah, they had
against their
concentration
will.
camps in
Yes.
America. Yeah.
In America,
Yeah.
concentration camps. So they were the brown people who were falsely imprisoned against their will. Their
Right.
property was taken away from them. Their businesses were taken away from them
Wow.
because of discrimination and oppression. This mistrust for China.
Right.
When we talk about Black and brown people, we're talking about the children who are in
They're in
these
cages
camps,
now.
locked up. They are still locked up in these cages.
Horrible. It's
These
horrible.
are brown people.
They're babies. They're brown babies.
They're babies.
And people are not, I don't understand what's going on with America, what's going on with our government. How can people of any other, like all races, turn a blind eye to this? I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I feel like, what does it take to bring in a new president in to abolish this, to end this? This is just ridiculous.
I think it's going to take, well, definitely it's going to take that.
Right.
But it takes all of us, like you just said, Trish. You always, let your culture know we need to stick up for Black people. We're brown, we're the same. We need to stick up for everyone, and that's across the board. Don't have it in your backyard. Don't have it in your presence.
No.
If somebody is oppressing someone of strictly because of their race, then you need to shut it down. If somebody is being discriminated against, then you need to stop it when it starts. It starts with all of us. All of us have to make a conscious effort to stop this thing because it's poison and it spreads.
Yep, like a cancer.
Spreads like cancer.
And you know what? This perpetuates mental health issues, mental health, psychological ailments, the symptoms of it, and a lot of different people are reacting in different ways, and they're not understanding the mental health impact, that component of it. I mean, this is trauma. This is worldwide trauma, and it's an uproar and a cry for help. And we do need to invest money into mental health, not take it away.
We need to invest it. One of the things that one of the things through this Black Lives Matter, people are saying they're opening the conversation about reparations. But I'm not going to talk so much about reparations because I don't understand it. I don't necessarily agree 100% with it on how it would be allocated. So I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know enough about how they would allocate it for me to intelligently speak on it. But nobody is talking about PTSD. Like you just said, trauma. When you live in a hostile environment, when you are constantly under scrutiny, when you are oppressed, when you are discriminated against, it causes trauma. Remember that case a couple of weeks ago in Chicago? A young man, he was 19 years old, really tall. He was African-American, two other African-American young teenage boys who played basketball commented on his height. Now, what was going on with this young 19-year-old Black male that as soon as they stepped outside the store, he shot both of those teenagers dead? Wow. What was going on with him mentally? We don't know. Did anybody try to investigate? But I tell you what, when the young white boy shot up the church in the South, was the first thing they said in South Carolina. They said he suffered from mental illness. Now, why is this 19-year-old boy this young 19-year-old African-American boy a thug,
Yeah.
but this young white man is suffering from mental illness, and we should have empathy for him when he maliciously killed people for the color of their skin. So it doesn't add up. Now, what about that young man? What did we ever investigate whether or not he was suffering from mental illness?
No.
Whether he suffered trauma through his childhood? Was he suffering from PTSD?
It's straight up racism. It's
Yes.
racism. That's straight up what it is. I've seen so many memes about this where exactly what you said was illustrated. The white boy who shot up the church, immediately it's a mental health issue. A black boy, a black kid, a black man who shoots other people, it's not a mental health issue, it's aggression. It's black on black crime. That's what they call it, you know? And then that's a terrible excuse. Why assess a white young man, a white boy with an automatically diagnosed, well, it's a mental health issue, but then not the black kid, the black guy who shot the kids. Like,
exactly. And they always, and you know, I'm not going to say they because that does sound racist, but you know, people tend to do studies in war-torn areas, like in the Middle East or other countries who suffer war issues, the effect that it had on the people in that environment, going through that stress, going through all of you know, going through the war. Yeah. But nobody has ever done a study on the African American experience in the United States.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. That's why we need more people of color in the world of psychology. We need more black psychologists, more black researchers, more black therapists to do these. And not just black people. If brown people can do these studies too.
Yeah.
Why is it white people? Anyone can do this. Study. You know, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. Tysen, I want to thank you so much for being on the show with me.
You are always welcome, Trish. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
This was so great. I mean, we did cover a lot of territory, but basically the gist is mental health is an issue. Funding needs to go into mental health across America.
Definitely.
Because of COVID-19, the effects, because of Black Lives Matter, because of the effects. And I want to thank you so much. I'm so blessed that, y'all, Tysen saw me through my transition from the old me. So my transition from the old me to the like Christ loving me.
Yes. Yes. Remember those late night calls, 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? Yes. Yes, Trish.
Yes, I was a mess.
And I am so proud of you. I am so proud of the woman that you have become.
Oh, thank you so much.
So proud of you.
Thank you so much. Like, I mean, I always tell people, you know, these girls at work used to invite me to church, and finally Diana invited me, and I actually went. And there's always something about you girls, something different. And now I know it was God. It was Jesus. The Holy Spirit was.
It was God. Hey, the light of the world. Exactly. Yes, He calls us to be the light of the world and the salt of the earth. Yes.
Salt and light of the world. Salt and light of the earth. I love it. Oh man, Tysen, it's good talking to you. Thank you so much for being part of my show. I'm so proud of you too. I'm so proud of the work.
Oh, thank you, Trish.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me.